It is easy to jump to conclusions. We all do it. But when it comes to police brutality, this is one issue the conclusions must be well thought out and perspectives understood. In order to understand the issue behind police brutality and how it is affecting you, Coppell Student Media has chosen some helpful statistics to shed some light. After completing police academy training, an officer will earn $52,176 in Fort Worth, $56,754 in McKinney, $59,501 in Arlington, and $63,757 in Plano. Starting pay is just under $45,000 a year for a Dallas cop, an ordinary salary for an extraordinary task. Now, pay is just one aspect. Let's take a look at what police officers have to face on a national level. In 2015, 50% of the victims of fatal police shootings were white, while 26% were black. Additionally, blacks were charged with 62% of robberies, 57% of murders, and 45% of assaults in the 75 largest counties in the country, although they only represent 15% of the population. Heather McDonald, a fellow at the Thomas W. Smith Manhattan Institute and a contributing editor of City Journal, writes, "Such a concentration of criminal violence in minority communities means the officers will be disproportionately confronting armed and often resisting suspects in those communities, raising officers' own risk of using lethal force." One particular statistic many people fall back on is the 6-to-1 ratio of unarmed black men who are more likely to be killed by a cop than unarmed white men. Unfortunately, this statistic does not tell the whole story. McDonald explains that although unarmed may be literally correct, it avoids the fact that in many high-pressure situations, unarmed men can be just as dangerous. Another confounder in this statistic is the probability that someone is killed by accident. McDonald writes, "In a number of cases, if the victim ended up being unarmed, it was certainly not for lack of trying. At least 5 black victims had reportedly tried to grab the officer's gun or had been beating the cop with his own equipment. Some were shot from an accidental discharge triggered by their own assault on the officer, and 2 individuals included in the Post's unarmed black victims category were struck by stray bullets aimed at someone else in justified cop shootings." It would seem that attributing racism to the large number of black deaths due to crime would be a little short-sighted. Media attention and politicization of law enforcement is having fatal effects. Murders have spiked by 17% among the 50 biggest cities in the United States, not to mention the death of 5 of our own police officers in Dallas. This is not to say that racism does not exist or that cops are never wrong in a situation. Racism should be dealt with harshly and cops held accountable for their actions, but assigning the actions of a few to the many is statistically incorrect. It is easy to forget that cops have families and are a part of the community too. Cops are everyday people, just like you and me. So the next time you see or hear about another shooting or incident, wait for the facts. Facts do not lie.